Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today I want to talk about some of the best features and innovations from past Battlefield titles that deserve a place in Battlefield 2042. Now mind you, many of the great gameplay innovations made throughout the years will be returning for this next game. Mini-map upgrades, weapon customization, squad revives, etc. But there's actually a lot of amazing Battlefield features that improved the franchise throughout the years, but for one reason or another never evolved into the next game or were phased out for no apparent reason. Some of these innovations existed in the very first Battlefield game, Battlefield 1942, and in my opinion could be re-injected to Battlefield 2042 as basic quality of life upgrades. I'd like to go over the features that should come back for Battlefield 2042, starting with the most recent Battlefield game and moving backwards. Battlefield 5. Despite it being such a problematic, underdeveloped game, it still made some key changes that I would like to see return. And as I mentioned before, squad revives are coming back, so we can thank Battlefield 5 for that innovation, but I also wouldn't mind seeing some version of squad leader call-ins returning as well. Now of course the V1 rocket bombs were kind of the pinnacle of those call-ins, and I'm not saying that I want to see V1s return, but I would at least like to see a system in which squad leaders could use their squad's collective points to do something beneficial for them and or the rest of the team, as long as it properly rewards all the members of the squad when something is called in. I think Battlefield 5 had the right idea, but the squad leader often got all the glory from call-ins, where I think the squad should share the rewards more equally. Now the next feature that I'd like to see return is from Battlefield Hardline. This game was the black sheep of an otherwise 100% military-themed shooter franchise. Visceral, the team behind it, made a lot of cool innovations, some of which were never seen again. One of those innovations was the vehicle respawn timer, which was such a nice quality of life improvement that allowed players to decide if they wanted to wait for a vehicle to spawn in from deployment or spawn somewhere else on the map. It alleviated the endless spam clicking on vehicle spawns hoping to get one before someone else on your team did. Battlefield 2042 has confirmed that there will still be vehicle spawns that you can get into from the deployment screen, so hopefully we will see this long forgotten feature return. And with all of the different areas of Battlefield's UI that could use improvement, I think this one is top of the list. Now Hardline also innovated the ability to take a health or ammo pack from a support or medic class when they weren't looking at you. You could walk up behind them, hit E, and get a single med pack or ammo pack from them. And we didn't see this feature return in a new Battlefield game for quite a while, until Battlefield 5 actually, and it eventually added this feature back in toward the end of its content cycle. Hopefully we see it back in 2042 as it alleviated the endless frustration of trying to get help from an oblivious support or medic player. And I think there's actually a pretty good chance of this feature returning, considering it was on DICE's mind so recently with the Battlefield 5 implementation. Moving on to Battlefield 4, one of the top requested features for every game since Battlefield 4 added it is a gun range. Now to be totally fair, Battlefield 5 did create a shooting range of sorts, but it more or less missed the point of a shooting range, requiring players to travel across a large map to get to the shooting range itself, and then having greatly restricted ways of testing loadouts. Battlefield 4 kept it simple and clean, letting you quickly pop into a range and test whatever vehicle and loadout you wanted. 2042 absolutely needs some sort of gun range. Even though the game is going to have a solo mode where you can fight AI players on various maps, having at least a weapon testing environment is still important. Something that players can join into very quickly to warm up and maybe even while queuing up for a game. Adding in additional features like real-time damage numbers, range indicators, reflex honing stations, and more would be a perfect complement to a Battlefield shooter. Now, if we head all the way back in time to, say, Battlefield 2, there was a more obscure but also extremely important design feature that I've been missing for quite a while, and that is a kill credit system. And to be perfectly honest, I don't remember if Battlefield 2 was the first Battlefield game to do this, but it's the only one that I specifically remember that properly credited kills to the last person to damage an enemy player or vehicle. This relatively minor feature was extremely important, especially for circumstances if you caused another player to crash their vehicle and thus die, or fall off of something and then die, you would still get the credit and points. So if you were chasing down an enemy airplane, shooting them up, and then in their attempt to evade they crash, well, you would still get the kill credit, which is not something that happens in basically every other modern Battlefield game. This type of system is extremely important for air vehicle combat, as in Battlefield 5, I think about 2/3 of all dogfight engagements would result in one of the pilots just bailing out, often to their death, with no kill rewarded to the other pilot. Creating this type of system really isn't that complicated, and it would be a massive quality of life improvement to pilots and even people on the ground shooting at aircraft. Now, another feature that I've wanted to bring back for a long time is a more in-depth scoreboard system. We actually saw it for the first time in Battlefield 1942, the very first game. And this slightly more advanced scoreboard stayed in the game all throughout Battlefield 2, and I believe started to disappear in the Bad Company era for one reason or another. The original Battlefield scoreboard showed an additional stat instead of just kills, deaths, pings, and total score. It also showed you your objective score. This allowed players to better ascertain how somebody was helping out their team at a glance. Maybe you're not a killing death machine type player, but at least the scoreboard would show that you were capturing flags and healing teammates. I think it would be really cool to bring back an enhanced version of this that shows objective score, gadget score, and kill score all separated out. This would be a really cool way to help other players understand how to do better just from looking at the top players and seeing that they do a lot of PTFOing to stay high up on the leaderboards. Now, the last but possibly most desired feature that I would love to see return would be modding support. The importance of Battlefield's modding past cannot be understated. Battlefield 1942's Desert Combat mod is quite literally the inspiration for taking the entire Battlefield franchise in a modern direction, and proved that the concept worked well within the 1942 engine. The Desert Combat mod itself became insanely popular, and I don't personally know anyone who played Battlefield 1942 who didn't also play Desert Combat. Moving through the games that still supported modding, Battlefield 2's Project Reality mod also showed that there was a market for highly realistic military shooters within the space, and served as the building blocks for the current Milsim shooter squad. And even now, with the Venice Unleashed modding tools for Battlefield 3, we're starting to see a community-driven battle royale project in development. Venice Unleashed proves that DICE's age-old excuse that the new Frostbite engine is too complicated to support modding just doesn't really hold up. I hope this is a discussion that DICE is willing to have again at some point, even if it begins with a more limited implementation, such as what the Halo franchise has allowed with the Forge editor. Anyway, I would love to see any and all of these forgotten features return for Battlefield 2042. It's entirely possible that DICE is already planning to do a bunch of them and just hasn't provided the details yet. What Battlefield features do you guys miss and would like to see return in the next game? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.